So I recently played in the American Cup Blitz Tournament here in St. Louis. It was a super strong event filled with numerous Grandmasters. And in round one, I was paired against Grandmaster Levon Aronian, who is currently ranked number 14 in the world. And Levon is now probably one of the strongest players I've ever played in an over-the-board rated game. So in this video, you'll see the footage from that game, along with a few interesting things which happened before the game began. And if you want to analyze the game, I'll leave a link below to the Lee chess study. But without further ado, let's get to the chess, and I hope you enjoy.
Who made that sound?
Check in. I'll tell you what, I know where his cell phone is.
All right, everyone. You may shake hands and start.
I'm sorry. One moment, finishing a player. I'm sorry. Okay, there is one thing I want to do. I don't know if you guys, I know it's before a round and it's serious and it's chess, but can we sing happy birthday to Yasser? I know, but we're going to do it anyway.
He's listening, all right.
All right, they're just saying happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Yasser. Happy birthday to you.
No, the whole tournament had to wait and sing happy birthday to me. Oh, please don't do that again.
He was 65 years young today.
Sorry for it. Do you know that the original song was Good Morning to You?
You guys may shake hands and start with.
And finally, games begin. And I decided beforehand I would play my London system, bread and butter opening. Levon plays g6, and I opt for a Jobava London with knight c3. Now, at this point, I was remembering he had a game against Andrew Tang, US Championship, where he allowed his knight b5 move, but with early c6, I can't play knight b5, so I go for a very typical h4 plan. He plays h5, I play knight f3, he plays bishop g4, and after queen d2, I'm in my preparation. I've had this position a good number of times in online blitz games. He trades on f3. And even though my pawns on the king side are doubled, I do have good potential to take control over the center, with e4 very likely coming soon. And we can see I already have pretty nice time advantage. I have more time than I started with. And he's the first one to start tanking in the opening. Plays knight b to d7. And I pretty quickly play e4. He responds with bishop to b4. And I'm out of my preparation here, but I've played this sort of structure many times before. And I felt like I had a decent idea of what my plans should be. Of course, I want to complete development, figuring out where to put my bishop on f1. I bring it to the center with bishop to d3. Levon was squirming a little bit, stretching a little bit. Always nice to make a super grandmaster opponent squirm. But the position is actually still very solid for black, even though he's conceded the bishop pair. His pawns are on light squares, kind of filling in for the job of the light square bishop that no longer exists. After queen a5 and king to b1, I do defend my a-pawn on queen side. Now there is this battery with the bishop and the queen directed against my pinned knight on c3. And what I want to do next move is play pawn to a3 and get rid of his bishop. With knight to b6, he does want to play knight a4, increase even more pressure against my pinned knight. So my options were pretty limited here. There's not too many ways to deal with knight a4 threat. So I play a3. He trades on c3. I take back with queen. And we end up trading queens. So now the resulting position is a queenless middle game where I have the bishop pair, but he has a knight pair. I make sure my c3 pawn's defended. He advances on the queen side with pawn to b5. And around this point, I realize that it's not easy for white to find a plan. My bishops are a bit restricted, just given the structure. It's hard for me to open the position. I could take on d5, but that probably only helps black more than it helps me. He improves the king. There's no need to castle once queens are off the board. His king is happily placed in the center. King d7 is somewhat of a delayed bomb cloud. I play king to b3, so I'm over defending my c3 pawn. He retreats with his knight, maybe eyeing the c4 square. I play bishop to g5, attacking his knight on f6. He retreats to e8. And at this point, I saw this knight on e8, and I wanted to try and punish it and restrict it even more. And this is a moment where I was trying to decide if it makes sense to play pawn to e5. Even though it closes down the position, I thought it is nice to maybe get some space advantage. And I do play pawn e5. Now it turns out after the game that he criticized this move. But life goes on. He plays knight to c7. I play rook h to g1. In hindsight, I'm not really sure what I was doing with this move. Like, even though the g file is half open, it's hard to find a future for this rook. And he improves on the king side, brings his knight back to a4. Very nice outpost. Pressuring my pawn on c3, which cannot advance. And here I feel stuck. I bring my bishop back to d2. Just add another defender, the pawn. And he keeps improving. Rook b8. Aligning with my king. I hesitate a bit. I play rook to a1. He plays rook to b6. So the big focus is on the queen side. It's really hard to do anything on the king side. And we're both falling pretty low on time. I'm actually lower on time for the first time in the game. He advances the pawn to c5. So maybe looking to play c4, maybe looking to take on d4. It's very annoying pawn tension. I really just want to stay solid, but I do take on c5. Now, I think most people would take back with a knight. I take c5 seems the most natural, but he plays rook to c6, knowing that he can take my c-pawn any time. And now I actually have multiple c-pawns that are hanging. I was trying to reinforce c5, but I do leave c3 undefended. He takes it and moves back. And now my pawn on c5 looks like it's a goner, but I play king to b4. Trying to hold on for dear life. Defending c5. Also maybe attacking b5. He plays rook a8. Preparing pawn a5. I play king a5. So this is a venture into his territory, trying to make sure he can't expand with his a-pawn. But he does take my pawn on c5. I'm getting dangerously low on time, falling below 5 seconds. I trade bishop for knight. I bring my king back to b4. He plays king c6. I play king to b3. He plays a5. And here I'm down a pawn. I'm just trying to get in moves as quickly as possible while he keeps improving. Plants a rook on c3. I play pawn f4. Trying to solidify what I have left in the position. Put my rook onto g3. Here I offer the rook trade, but I don't want to take his rook on c3. I play rook to d1, leaving the tension between the rooks. He improves his knight. I take it, barely getting the move in on time. Plays rook dg3, king c4, rook 1 to d2. Now he's also getting very low. He takes on d3. I take back. He plays rook d8. And at this point, I have a glimmer of hope, thinking that maybe I have a fortress in the position. It seems like black can't break through, but then he plays pawn f6 as Robbie Kevlashvili in the background looks on, along with Tatev behind me. And now he invades on the f-file. And I take on g6, but I flag before I get the move in. We chat a little bit after the game. The final position is losing for white. And yeah, let me just show it here. So if I were able to play this move without flagging, then Levon is ready to take on f2, attacking my pawn on c2. And it looks very close for white to hold. Like if I can take on e6 and play king b2, but I only get one move at a time. And if I defend my pawn on c2, he's just very quick with pawn d3. And there's no way for me to defend c2. If I take, then he can take, let's say, king b1. And yeah, the two passed pawns are going to completely overpower me. So it was a tough game. And I analyzed this game a little bit with Engine. And Levon actually played a really, really clean positional game. I think there were very few moments I could have improved on. But I do want to show one moment from the opening, because in this position, I was scared of his threat of taking and then taking and potentially winning a pawn. But it turns out the best move for white would have been to play a3, provoking bishop takes c3, and actually sacrificing a pawn. And if we entered this position, white is actually much better. And this is an objectively sound gambit for white. So after queen f3, I keep initiative, and the position opens up with white having the bishop pair. So let's say black moves back with the knight, then move like bishop to d3, and there's no immediate ways of winning back material, but the fact that black's pawns are all on light squares makes the dark squares extra weak. And I probably should have been aware of this, like back in this position, that it would have been okay to try and provoke black to exchange their last bishop, especially with the dark square weaknesses on the king side. So I think this would have been the biggest moment in the game to get some early edge. But after I played bishop d3, then I think Levon just took full control. I did make some inaccuracies over the course of this game. But yeah, kudos to him for playing a nice positional build-up, especially on the queen side. And the only other moment I want to address here is much, much later in the time scramble, because it turns out that we both made blunders. In this moment, when he took on d3, what I could have done was taken back with a pawn. I took back with rook. This felt more natural in the moment. But when I take with pawn, I force his king back. And more importantly, I would take over the c-file. I have rook c2, force the king back to b6, and then rook c8. Now, from a distance, it looks like black is still in good shape, has a defended passed pawn, also up a pawn in the position. But according to the engine, white is surviving. Like, black is only slightly better, and this position is closer to a draw than it is to black winning. So who knows, if I played this, maybe I would have being able to hold on for a draw. Of course, black is still pushing here. Maybe you can try rook c5, and yeah, I still have to be precise because I can't take, because then the king pawn ending is winning. I would have to play rook b8 check, and then rook f8 and f7 is a target. And if king a7, rook f8, rook c7. Yeah, I think black could still try and push for a win here. But yeah, maybe this position is closer to a fortress for white compared to what happened in the game. Yeah, after rook d3, he played very nicely. f6 was a very nice move. We saw multiple times in this game where he essentially sacked a pawn temporarily to give me triple pawns. This case I didn't take, but some nice positional ideas with this moment, and then earlier too, yeah, the c5 move. So some nice pawn play by Levon Aronian. Hope you guys enjoyed this game. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys soon.